What is up, guys? Eric here from EBM Productions, here with another video. Okay, I'm gonna get right into what the big problem is right now. The big problem is, guys, that most MMA media and YouTube media, I'm gonna call it MMA YouTube media, have a problem. And the problem is people are not focusing on MMA itself anymore. It's more sensationalist, dramatized bullshit that doesn't connect back to MMA. How it connects to MMA in the slightest is just that it is an MMA fighter or a MMA media member that is under fire or there's some drama with them. Now, the problem is this is annoying, like me as a viewer, because I obviously keep up with this, find it extremely annoying and frustrating. Now, I want to give some backstory on how my view and my feel about it is going to be the general consensuses, the fan bases consensus feeling in the future. So, okay, years back, at some point, and I know who to blame kind of a little bit for it, but I'm not going to blame this person right now. But years back, the general MMA media, the guys that ask questions at the press conferences and they work for big institutions, yada yada, or they have their own businesses. Like, let's say Luke Thomas is a good example, although Luke always brings it back to MMA. I like that. He doesn't really fall in the bin where he's in trouble here or who perpetuated this problem. But a few other media outlets started asking the weirdest, out of place questions and about topics that either are sensationalized or just does not pertain to MMA or it doesn't bring the topic back to MMA. And what ended up happening is the fans got sick of it. People stopped watching the interviews and stuff, and the numbers dropped a lot, and a lot of people were like, geez, these guys are just asking the stupidest questions. And you know what? I was one of them. I stopped watching some of the press conferences because I was like, these questions are rubbish. And then other times I'd sit there and I'm like, I'm hyped for the fight. And then because of the hype, I realized when it's done, like when they start the face-offs, I'm like, oh, they asked only rubbish. Nothing was really, there's no grit to the question. And also, 99% of the stuff isn't about MMA. And when that kind of stuff happened, I started just like stop watching. Because why should I waste my time when I'm here to hear from the MMA fighter about MMA? Especially when I want to hear what's his thoughts on his next opponent, what's his thought on his opponent's skills, their weaknesses, the mental side of things. If they have beef, the beef is always fun to watch because it gets you hyped for the fight. It gives it that edge, and yeah, stuff like that. And then also their thoughts on other people and well, the other people on the stage with them on the card. When people ask them about who's a prospect that they are looking for, etc. Stuff like this. And even when they talk about training techniques and stuff, I know that really happens at press conferences, but the smaller presses and press related stuff, that's where they ask them. But when I hear it's unfounded rubbish like, oh, did you hear Kanye West had a burnout the other day? How do you feel about that? And then they start talking about that. It's rubbish. That's not connected to MMA. The only fighter who, two fighters, let me say two fighters, three, no, two, these two. I'll say these two is off the top of my head. The other one, no. Anyway, only two fighters where when people ask them about slightly different stuff, slightly out of MMA stuff, or just their opinions on other people, where it was entertaining and kind of makes you think about it a little bit, was Colby Covington when he's underneath his, well, acting out his character. Because a lot of the stuff that he said and the way he said it sometimes was really true. Like, yeah, especially when he pointed out how Kamaru Usman's actual name is Marty and stuff like that. Meanwhile, I don't think that's his actual name, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while, guys. I haven't. It's not me. My brain works like this. If there's a lot of info in here that actually does not benefit my life in general, then my brain dumps. It just releases that info into the wild. And either I need to think very hard about it and it will come back, or I won't ever remember it, because my brain's wired like this. If it's not going to aid me right now to survive and improve, or like achieve a certain goal, then it's pointless to keep up here. And I don't think many people work like me. So yeah, but that's my problem. It's sometimes why I forget small details or small stuff. And having brain fog from bloody Crohn's disease, the autoimmune disease that I have, makes it worse. Makes it so much worse, and it's annoying sometimes. Anyway, Colby Covington and Sean Strickland. Only two guys that, when they sometimes spoke about stuff outside of MMA, it was entertaining and fun. However, just like with Sean's whole situation, where it got boring, it gets burnt out. Same with Colby. People got pissed because Colby said all kinds of stuff that, like, he was just going to run over this guy, and then he loses, or he just puts up a very mediocre performance. Also him claiming he's better here or there in MMA, yada yada. Then also talking about politics, or other stuff that's just a little bit unfounded. Sometimes it was entertaining, and then later on it got very stale. Now, the general YouTube media for MMA right now has been focusing on shit like this, and I'm getting tired of it. Like, I understand a lot of stuff has happened in the last 2 weeks, like a lot. The Jackson podcast drama, the Jackson podcast and Bryce Mitchell, the Jackson podcast and Anthony Smith, and how people are kind of pissed at Rampage for going after Anthony. Meanwhile, they don't understand that Jackson was just being cordial in person, where he actually did have a few issues with Anthony Smith, but it wasn't going to just air it out right there, because it would just make things unpleasant for no flippin' reason. You don't do that. You don't meet somebody to talk to them about MMA and stuff like that, like you explained, and then you're a rude asshole because you disagree, like, on everything or on a few things. You don't choose that one problem to ruin the whole good conversation. That's what I meant, and that's what he meant. He explained it essentially in that way, and that's where me and Rampage have something in common. I'll freaking, like, if you give me disrespect after we spoke cordially and stuff, I'm gonna lose my shit on you, and I'm gonna drop a nuke on your head of honesty. And Rampage is the same. He actually went a little bit lighter than how I would go, but that's me. I'm a little bit different. I'm 0 to 100. I have no filter. That's why, if you give me a reason to not keep the cage over my mouth, then shit's gonna pop off. And usually then people are like, oh, this guy, this small guy, I'm gonna try and fight him, and it never works out. It never works out for them. Never. And I'll put cash on that. I'll put money on that. This is more so for people in general in my life, not pro MMA fighters and stuff. You guys know I've said it in many videos. I'll get folded by a pro MMA fighter. However, I would still tell them. I would fully know I'm probably going to have need surgery after this, but I need to tell them this if there's disrespect, because you will only get as much respect from people as you give out. And that literally, that just means being normal, cordial and normal. So yeah, when Rampage freaked out a tiny bit, I think it was enough to just push him over that edge where he unleashed shit on Anthony, which was a bit bad because of the bullshit that happened with the podcast. And then, yeah, Bryce Mitchell, what he said, the drama about what he actually said, which I fully disagree with. I understand why people are pissed, but it's nothing to do with MMA, in my opinion. They should have given him his chance to just say sorry and just let him be a fighter. He shouldn't be on the mic for a while, because If he says one thing wrong again, like let's say something like something hectic, I don't know. I'm not really good with this kind of stuff because if I say it by accident, where people might get mad about something I said by being too honest with people, or yeah, it doesn't happen. I don't generally don't misstep stuff like that. And the times where I did, I usually work on not doing it again because that's how it should be. It's normal to be better the next time. Bryce doesn't hit me like the kind of guy to retract that fully, and he doesn't hit me as the kind of guy to think before he speaks when he's very passionate about certain topics. And clearly, yeah, it was bad. And then what else? Oh yeah, John Jones on the live stream that he was on yesterday. See, all of this stuff is not really to do with MMA. It's nothing to do with MMA. Oh yeah, and Sean Strickland and Eric Nixick, the drama they have. It's a little bit more connected to MMA because in the end there might be a separation between coach and MMA fighter there. However, this beef, like Strickland said, should have been said in private, but there's nuance to it. So I understand why Eric just aired it out, and I think it's kind of to nudge Sean to think about these things, like so that he can work on it. But it might backfire on him. So I don't think it's going to work. I think it's going to backfire on them, and they're just going to cut ties, and that's not good. It's not good for both parties because they are friends, and they literally achieved a world championship together. But anyway, stuff like this, it's just drama and negativity and stupid stuff. Like also with Conor McGregor when he does any of his escapades, I don't give a shit about that. I'm a MMA fan, and yeah, you can say right now I'm a hobbyist essentially because I'm too sick to really train constantly. So I'm a hobbyist right now, and I'm an MMA fan. I want to see MMA. I want to hear topics of MMA. Like this is why years back the Weasel was, well, I'd say Jack Slack and the Weasel. Those guys. Jack Slack for all of his articles about techniques and stuff to think about in MMA fights. When they spoke about other people trying MMA, like Hafthor Bjornsson versus Conor McGregor, breaking that down. Even Jack Slack did break it down, if I'm not mistaken, back then. And same thing, same as the Weasel, he explained why Hafthor wouldn't really win at that point in time in a fight. Breaking down Bruce Lee in MMA, and would he have done well, blah, blah, blah. Stuff like that, and then also certain techniques. Like, that's something I need to give the Weasel, but he's no longer doing any topics like that. He's not doing any, well, no, he isn't. He isn't making videos where he explains this technique was used in this fight this many times, and this is one of the big reasons why this person won, and you can use it in your game, yada yada. That kind of videos don't exist anymore. Now, I say maybe later on I'll do something like that. I just need to buy some new gear because my boxing gloves, they tore from the inside and on the outside. I punched a hole literally through my bloody boxing gloves. And that's really annoying because these gloves were only, I think, a year old, and I used them for 2 sparring sessions and, geez, very rarely for boxing, like bag work. And yeah, however, all of my gloves have perished this way. Like, I break gloves. I think one of the old boxing clips that I will post at one point, you guys will see literally here where the middle of my fist is, where my chin is now. So middle of the fist on the boxing glove, literally dents in like this. Every time I can work on the bag alone, or I can work on like a punching dummy. I literally used the steel pole before with that smooth paint to do bag work on, where I wasn't hitting that hard. And over time, less than a year or 2 years sometimes, nowadays it's been quicker, because my punching technique has been improved. Although I need to critique a few things on my own, but that's why film study is a good thing. But anyway, guys, point is, I break gloves. I hit hard enough that I break my gloves. It's also another problem. I can put so much padding on my knuckles, and I still feel my knuckles chew into whatever I'm hitting. It can be a 16-ounce glove, it can be a 12. I still hit hard enough that when I land, the bloody knuckles, I have big bony knuckles. Big bony knuckles. They land and they literally chow whatever I'm hitting. If it's a person and I feel it like hit on the top of the head, hardest part of the skull, it's agony. And if you hit elbows, if you hit the hip bone, I hate the hip bone. And this is if you're doing boxing training. It's not when you're doing MMA and you hit a knee, you hit somebody kicking, or like, yeah, shin bone. I don't want to block and feel the shin bone like through my glove. But anyway, the knee, elbow, hip bone is the worst by far. Elbow is the worst if you land a certain way, in my opinion. But yeah, point is, that kind of stuff, I feel it every time. Bleh. Anyway, guys, I went on a tangent there. In short, the MMA media right now needs to fix this situation. We want MMA-related stuff, not this drama-based stuff the whole time. I understand it gets a lot of views when it's something like, oh, John Jones is gay. Shout out to MMA Guru on that one. But that was a little bit different. He sprinkled that in. He didn't perpetuate it. It wasn't 20 videos of multiple of these kinds of sensationalist topics. It was one here, a few months it goes normal, where he talks about fighters and how people view their upcoming fight, etc. And then he throws in the Nina Drama video that he made, by example, and so forth. Nowadays, it seems like it's every bloody video for everybody, like not just him, everybody, and it's annoying because nobody's breaking down how DDP beat Sean Strickland, and that just happened. Nobody's doing the same for Zhang Weili versus Tatiana Suarez. They're not breaking down these things and pointing out what could have been done better or what they did by like mistakes, etc. Nobody's doing that, which is boring. By the way, this is a point where I need to mention Gabriel Varga. Love his videos because he does more technique-driven stuff. And I do understand most people don't do MMA, but if you understand it by being shown cool, nitty-gritty tricks that certain MMA fighters are doing, then next time you see it, you can be like, oh, that's that technique that this dude talked about. It's cool. Now I can see it. It's because usually you would just be like, oh, they're fighting. So, yeah, we need to stop focusing on the sensationalist stuff all the time and focus on a mix of it. There needs to be a balance. It reminds me of when all these stupid questions were asked for the fighters. I remember how many times fighters got pissed because of this stuff and were just like, I don't want to do media because of this. Especially Khabib. I remember he didn't like it. Tony Ferguson as well. Great example of people just asking stupid questions sometimes. And those guys, they unfortunately took the brunt of it. It's like when Conor McGregor told that one interviewer when he asked a stupid question, when it was still smart, non-druggy Conor, he said, this is not a therapy session. And I love that. He told him off in the sharpest way. And he literally just told him, I'm not interested in this. Why are you talking about this? That is what we need more. We need the MMA fighters to say, hey, not interested. And more people like me need to be like, we're not going to support these videos if it's literally every bloody video and we are not interested anymore. So yeah, cheers guys, I needed to just vent on this one.